The Philadelphia Eagles officially built a super team in one offseason. And in 1 year, they went from a 1-6 finish to the season in a playoff embarrassment to having the most dominant defense in the NFL since the Legion of Boom, their quarterback proving every doubter wrong, and having the most dominant running back season we've ever seen in the past decade. Oh, and did I mention this also?
For the second time, the Vince Lombardi Trophy is headed to Philadelphia. Eagles fly!
How did they do it? How did the Philadelphia Eagles outdraft and outmaneuver the other 31 teams in the NFL on the way to putting together a potential dynasty? Here's a timeline on how the Philadelphia Eagles built the most stacked team in NFL history. Now, of course, we have to start with the Eagles general manager and Howie Roseman, who has often found himself on the receiving end of very favorable media coverage over the recent years. And I mean, frankly, I do think he does deserve it. I mean, in many ways, the dude has pretty much delivered the perfect blueprint in how to build and how to keep an NFL franchise running at tip-top shape. Like, I mean, the dude is always nailing the NFL draft. And not only that, but taking pretty kind of risky deals, but at the right opportunity when he needs to take them, and they always work out in his favor. I mean, going back to the messy end to the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia was mitigated by the fact that Roseman had made the surprising decision to select a project quarterback in Jalen Hurts in the second round of the 2020 draft. And then, of course, we have in 2021, he kind of saw that the Giants were eyeing a certain wide receiver in that draft, so he moved up ahead of them and took a certain Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver that I think we've all grown accustomed to know, especially if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
The Dallas Cowboys have traded the 10th pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles select Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.
Fast forward to 2022, and Howie Roseman took a risk, but this time was trying to take his team over the edge and really help them just get the guy that they thought they needed.
Another massive move has taken place. The Titans are trading wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Eagles.
What about this trade that just went down?
Wow, we thought it was going to be Deebo Samuel. Turns out A.J. Brown stole the show here.
Yeah.
Eagles just traded
How about that one?
18th pick and a third-round pick for one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL, A.J. Brown, Jason Kelce. What is going on right now? What is going on right now?
Dude, Howie Roseman is working that Howie Roseman magic. That's what's going on.
What did the Eagles just get? Like,
Matt
what
Miller.
difference is this going to make for the Eagles coming into this year?
I mean, we talked about it earlier. You're going to know on Jalen Hurts. You're going to know on Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah, they're giving him there's nobody to blame.
Nope.
At this point.
Nobody to blame.
He then went on to use his first-round draft pick in 2022 to select behemoth defensive tackle Jordan Davis, who he knew could learn behind the aging Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. In round 2 of that draft too, Roseman selected Cam Jurgens, a promising offensive lineman who could learn behind and eventually replace Hall of Fame center Jason Kelce. These, along with several other savvy moves, turbocharged the Philadelphia Eagles rebuild process, converting their 4-win season in 2020 into a 14-win season and a Super Bowl appearance just 2 years later in 2022. And I mean, by all accounts, this was a team on the rise, but a tough 38-35 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl 57 proved to be a pretty significant bump in the road, and one that would eventually require Howie Roseman to up his game even further to overcome it. And you see, following that loss too, the Philadelphia Eagles suffered a lot of losses in that offseason.
We do have some breaking news in the coaching world. Let's get to Morton. Adam, what can you tell us, guys?
All right, Sam, the Indianapolis Colts have begun reaching out to other candidates this morning to inform them that they will not be getting the head coaching job in Indianapolis. And Indianapolis is planning to move in the direction of the Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen, assuming the two sides can get a contract.
Got some breaking news in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals are closing in on making Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon their next head coach.
This did leave Nick Sirianni in charge of this team, but he had new coordinators by his side. And I mean, as we all do know too, while this didn't initially prove to be too much of a problem as the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles opened up with a 10-1 record, there were some underlying concerns that would ultimately prove to be their downfall. Following that 10-1 start, the Super Bowl hangover would kick in, and it would kick in pretty hard for them.
Shanahan and the 49ers have won. They've won 4 in a row.
Boys, impressive here tonight. Seahawks win this game 20-17. Cardinals come to Philadelphia and knock off the Eagles.
And that's it. The New York Giants hand the Philadelphia Eagles a loss in the regular season finale.
When they were unceremoniously dumped out of the playoffs in the wild card round by Tampa Bay, Eagle fans were red hot with rage, and head coach Nick Sirianni found himself on the hot seat just one season after taking his team to the Super Bowl.
Is it true that Nick Sirianni doesn't do anything, which was asked of him when they brought in 2 new coordinators? And all those stories alone, okay, one of those stories is okay. When all those stories happen, you're taking on water. And if I'm Jeff Lurie, he's earned the right to come back for this year. But if this year doesn't go well, I will promise you this, Nick Sirianni doesn't see year 5 with Philadelphia.
Everybody's now thinking that Nick Sirianni is going to get fired. He was in the Super Bowl last year. 2 new coordinators, 3 new coordinators this year. If you go with the 2, adding Matt Patricia, the team did not look great. The defense did not look great. And now they're calling for Sirianni to potentially be fired. Is that just the natural NFL cycle of how this whole thing goes?
After being a top 10 scoring defense in 2022, the Philadelphia Eagles regressed, giving up the 3rd most points in 2023, which meant new defensive coordinator Sean Desai had to go. Adding the fact too that the Eagles' 2nd best scoring offense in 2022 also saw a significant step back in fortunes, ranking 16th in passing yards just 1 year after Jalen Hurts was considered one of the MVP frontrunners. So new offensive coordinator Brian Johnson also had to go. And this left Nick Sirianni as the last man standing, with many people asking what he did to remain in that spot. And not only that too, but many people were now questioning, was it really Nick Sirianni who led that team to the Super Bowl in 2022, or was it the offensive and defensive coordinators that they had just released that really kind of carried him into that Super Bowl? Nonetheless though, everybody knew that he needed to instill a positive culture if he wanted to survive and remain the Eagles head coach. Again, even to begin this season, the calls for Sirianni to lose his job were loud, but Eagles ownership ignored them, instead choosing to back the man who had led the locker room to the Super Bowl in 2022. However, now with them backing Nick Sirianni too, there was a lot of pressure coming into the 2024 season. The same could also be said for the quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who had thrown a career-high 15 interceptions and was now facing allegations that he was simply a product of the players around him. Both he and Sirianni needed a bounce back in 2024, and thankfully, their general manager was continuing to do top-tier work to make that bounce back as easy as possible for his colleagues. Oh, and don't worry, because right before we get into this Hall of Fame offseason that Howie Roseman had in 2024, I think we need to discuss just how impactful what he did in 2023 was as well in the draft and that offseason, and really just that entire season, to really see how it paid off this year with them winning the Super Bowl. I've already pointed out with the likes of Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and even Jalen Hurts were examples of sensible draft selections by Howie Roseman, bringing in top-tier talent at positions who can eventually take over the starting roles from team legends. But this continued with the selections he made in the 2023 NFL Draft.
2023 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Carter, defensive tackle, Georgia.
How scared are you of this Eagles defense?
Don't jump. Are you still working? Hey, don't jump.
I ain't scared of them because I ain't got to block them. I'm not even addressing the damn camera. I'm pissed off again. Last night I got fined. I saw y'all this morning. I was in a great mood. And the question on our rundown is how scared of you. I'm terrified, okay?
I'm just so sick to my stomach right now. Not only does he have veteran
next to Fletcher Cox,
well,
it's him and Jordan Davis for like the next 5 years.
That is just.
Don't y'all just have N'Kobe Dean?
Oh yeah, we're just Georgia North.
I just think the Eagles like Georgia, but I'm just sick. I'm just sick to my stomach right now.
Carter's selection continued a trend of Howie Roseman selecting key playmakers from the Georgia Bulldogs' record-breaking defense, joining Jordan Davis and N'Kobe Dean from the year before. This trend then continued even further with the arrival of Nolan Smith later in the 2023 draft's first round and Kelly Ringo in the fourth. Chemistry is a big deal on defense, and what better way to ensure cohesion in the trenches than selecting former teammates who had won 2 national championships together as part of one of the best defenses in college football history. And again, Despite the disappointing finish to the 2023 season for Philly, the year was a valuable learning experience for these former Bulldogs that would eventually pay off in 2024. And now, after we fully understand what Howie Roseman did in that offseason in 2023, and yes, despite the tumultuous and kind of just the way that they went out in the playoffs wasn't what they wanted, now we can focus on the 2024 offseason and really see how Howie Roseman built this super team. And I mean, really, it truthfully, honestly, all started with the new hiring of offensive and defensive coordinators.
We have a developing story out of Philly now. Adam, what's going on?
Well, the Miami Dolphins mutually parted ways this afternoon with Vic Fangio, and the idea here was to allow Vic Fangio to be closer to his family, which is in Pennsylvania, which also happens to be the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, who also happen to have an opening at the defensive coordinator position.
It's officially official now. The Eagles have a new defensive coordinator. We'll see if Vic Fangio can figure out how to get the Birds back on that side of the ball. Here we go. The Philadelphia Eagles are expected to hire Kellen Moore as their new offensive coordinator. That, according to CBS Sports.
Kellen Moore is not exactly known to be like spread, quarterback design, run, read option type of guy, right? That's not what he's been. Does he have that in his offense a little bit? Surely, yes. But to the level to where it can maximize Jalen Hurts, that's the thing I'm kind of excited to see where this goes.
Moore was a hot name on the offensive side of the ball, having masterminded a Cowboys offense that ranked in top 4 in points per game, yards per game, and third down conversions in each of his 3 seasons there between 2019 and 2022. Fangio, on the other hand, was widely regarded as one of the most experienced and sharp defensive minds in football. And now with the offensive and defensive coordinators and just the coaches kind of hashed out now, Howie Roseman could focus on what he did his best work in, with that being the NFL draft and the NFL free agency period. CJ Gardner-Johnson was welcomed back after 1 year away from the team, and popular players such as Brandon Graham and Avonte Maddox were re-signed. Big ticket item on the defensive side of the ball was former New York Jet Bryce Huff, who would go on to unfortunately prove that not everything Roseman does touch turns to gold, posting just 2.5 sacks in the regular season before being benched in the playoffs this year. A big money kind of just blunder like this would kind of get any other general manager thrown under the bus and kind of just catch a lot of criticism from all the critics. But with what he did next, well, you really can't say anything except for, how did you do it, Howie Roseman?
Can I interest you in Saquon Barkley to the Eagles?
Running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles. $37.75 million contract that could be worth up to $46.75, 26 fully guaranteed at signing per sources, says Adam Schefter.
Look at Saquon Barkley.
I hate football. Sorry, man.
Back in the state of Pennsylvania. Oh, Penn State fans or Eagles fans are losing their friggin' minds right now.
Like, I mean, Saquon Barkley was the missing piece in Roseman's puzzle to give his Eagles one of the most dangerous rushing attacks in NFL history on paper. The idea of defenses having to defend both Barkley and dual-threat quarterback Jalen Hurts was an incredibly exciting prospect for Philly fans, and we all know how that turned out. An equally impressive signing also landed on the defensive side of the ball, with Zach Bond arriving on a cheap 1-year deal. Initially, really nobody thought much of the deal at the time, considering Bond was coming off of a quiet 4-year stint in New Orleans, in which he posted a total of 2 sacks and never more than 30 tackles combined in a year. As it turns out, though, that signing in Zach Bond happened to be just the biggest defensive free agent signing for the Eagles this offseason. Like, not only did he deliver his career best in this defense, but also just him and Vic Fangio meshed so well together that it was just a match made in heaven for both of these guys. Like, I mean, he was a rampant tackling machine, swarming sideline to sideline, and proving to be a far more impactful player than even the most optimistic Philadelphia fan could have even imagined. Zach Bond has played a pivotal role in transforming the Philadelphia defense, but he wasn't the only new arrival to play their part. Just 1 month after having possibly his all-time greatest free agent signing class, now Howie Roseman could take all of that and now turn his energy and focus on the NFL draft. And I think the craziest part about just the 2024 NFL draft for the Eagles too is that they knew their secondary needed help. They were one of the worst secondaries in the NFL the year prior, and well, in the 2024 NFL draft, that's exactly what they went after, with secondary players.
With the 22nd pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Quinyon Mitchell, defensive back, Toledo.
Hello?
Cooper.
What's up?
Howie Roseman, brother.
How's it going?
Eagle.
Let's go.
Let's go. You sat
I'm
way
excited.
too long.
I appreciate
we're
you.
excited to have you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, can't wait to get you here. We're all really excited. We last night went to bed trying to get you, and yeah, it's going to be great.
Absolutely.
We're going to have a lot of fun today.
With the 40th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Cooper DeJean, DB, Iowa.
Round 3 did bring reinforcements to the defensive line in the form of an imposing edge rusher in Hunt before a linebacker in Jermaine Trotter Jr. arrived in the 5th round. With these selections, Howie Roseman had now spent 7 picks on defensive talent inside the top 3 rounds of the last 3 drafts, meaning there was a lot of young talent for new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio to work with, and you can bet your ass he managed to get the most out of them. I mean, we have to start with the first 2 selections who were in the secondary and just a complete revelation. Like, Quinyon Mitchell gave up over 35 yards only 1 time from week 5 onward, clamping down some of the league's best wide receivers in the process. Similarly, Cooper DeJean also thrived, finishing the regular season as the 3rd highest rated cornerback according to PFF, earning an 82.7 defensive grade and a 79.3 coverage grade. The 2 rookie defensive backs quickly earned the trust of the legendary defensive coach, proving sticky in coverage and strong as tacklers. With Zach Bond popping up everywhere from the linebacker position and Jalen Carter demanding double teams from the heart of the defensive line, the Eagles evolved to become one of the toughest defenses in the NFL to play. They gave up the fewest yards and the 2nd fewest points on the season, with Howie Roseman's vision of building his defense around historically good defensive players coming into shape. The offense also received an identity change driven by one of the greatest running back seasons in NFL history. Like, I mean, we all knew how good Saquon Barkley was, and the prospects of him benefiting from a good offense for the first time in his career were promising, but nobody expected him to dominate in quite the way he did. Barkley announced his arrival with over 130 yards from scrimmage and 3 total touchdowns in the season opener against Green Bay, before going on to deliver 2,005 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground at a whopping 5.8 yards per carry. He then continued this good form onto the playoffs, powering his way to 442 yards and 5 touchdowns at an even more impressive 6.7 yards per carry to help the Eagles book their spot in the Super Bowl. I mean, with Barkley running rampant and with Jalen Hurts also picking up 630 yards of his own, the Philadelphia Eagles posted the 2nd highest rushing yards in the 2024 NFL season, averaging out at 179.3 per game. Like, I mean, with so much production coming on the ground, the pressure was taken off of the Eagles' passing attack, with both A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith seeing a decline in their numbers. Nevertheless, though, 1,079 yards and 7 touchdowns for Brown and 833 yards and 8 touchdowns for Smith isn't exactly bad going. I mean, on top of the eye-watering production that just the Philadelphia Eagles free agent running back in Saquon Barkley had too, he made sure to really just impact the team morale as well, really boosting it every game this year. I mean, many of the concerns surrounding the Eagles' collapse in 2023 came back to locker room rifts, whereas Barkley's presence in 2024 has made the Eagles a more cohesive unit. His qualities as a teammate were never more evident than when he told his head coach that he would rather see his young boys eat than go for a career-high rushing yardage total against his old team, the New York Giants. Like, I mean, really, his ability and just honestly his on-field and off-field capabilities of really boosting the team morale and just how good they were, it really makes him one of the greatest free agent signings of all time. I mean, between Saquon Barkley's impact on the offense, Zach Bond and Vic Fangio's impact on the defense, and Howie Roseman's relentless ability to find talent in free agency and in the draft, the Eagles have overcame their disastrous end to the 2023 season and have dragged themselves right back to the top of the sport. And I mean, what's even more particularly exciting for Eagle fans is, well, they look like they're gonna stay there for a minute. Entering the 2024 NFL season, the Eagles had the 6th youngest team with an average age of 25 and a half. Key players such as Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Cam Jurgens, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Quinyon Mitchell, Nakobe Dean, and Cooper DeJean are all 27 years or younger at the release of this video, as crazy as that sounds. And I mean, that's the fact of the matter too, is that this team is going to be here for many years to come. Like, I mean, even if they did lose some way in Super Bowl 59, which they didn't, they handed the Kansas City Chiefs their ass, there was still plenty of reason to be optimistic, but now it's just downright fearful of what this team is going to do for the next 10 years. Like, it's going to be literally just Eagles versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It's going to be absolutely crazy because of how good these two teams are. Or even Bills versus Eagles. The Eagles are, like, besides the Lions, probably the most dominant team or just the most well-rounded team in the NFC. you could argue. But again, this cause for optimism is a testament to Howie Roseman's elite ability to build a team. Time after time, he's found gems in the draft, not only finding top-tier talent, but finding it at key positions and bringing in these players as a part of a succession plan to prove against gaps in the depth chart that will soon be appearing. Like, I mean, look at it. The decline of Carson Wentz and the departure of legends such as Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz, and others have been mitigated by the drafting of players such as Jalen Hurts, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Dallas Goedert, all of whom arrived while their predecessors were still playing and were playing at a high level in the NFL. Like, I mean, it's that draft and develop approach that ensures your team always stays in the mix, but it's Roseman's willingness to take risks such as trading for AJ Brown, trading up for Devonta Smith, and paying up for Saquon Barkley that makes you a contender. These are all risks that have paid off for Howie Roseman, showing just how good of an eye he has for talent and risk-taking. And it's for that reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are destined to be a problem in the NFC and in the entire NFL for many years to come.